My name is Elia Encinias.
Hi, I'm Eisenberger.
Today we're going to be doing a video on American slavery.
Today we will be asking teachers and students their opinion and some questions on what slavery was and how it has affected the economy for our world history project.
So basically we have a full list of questions that we're going to be asking them just to see what they think about slavery.
We will be taking a tally on if they thought it was good, bad, or what their opinion was on it.
So basically we have our list of questions and we are basically just going to tell you guys some of our examples for our questions that we're going to ask people.
So our first question is, how many or about how many black men and women were there in the 17th century?
There's a lot. So you guys know that. At what age did children start working at the plantation? That's number 2.
How did you feel about slavery, and how do you think it
made the slaves feel?
Yeah.
How did slavery help build an economy according to you? Because it could have built an economy any different ways. So,
when did slavery stop and why so?
Number 6 is, what was the one thing that slaves did while working?
Slaves were controlled. How would you feel if you were controlled for your whole life?
Personally, I would not want that. That'd be bad.
Okay, 8.
Slaves were controlled in every southern state except for
hundreds of years, slaves were taken from their homes. How does that make you feel? Does it make you grateful for what you have?
It would make me feel grateful. Know that I'd have to go through it, right?
Yeah.
About how many slaves were on the first ship?
Like the first ship.
America.
Yeah, that. Oof, typing there, Molly. Okay. How does this poem make you feel? No day, no dawn, for the slaves nor look for. It is all night, night forever.
How do you think slavery affected you and like the way you think about African American people?
Life for many is good. You have a home, you have food, you need.
And when the slaves needed it,
yeah.
And some people do not have anything more to park bench to sleep on. I know that you should be glad for what you have, because I know a lot of people who have to sleep. They don't have
benches.
They have to go to shelters because they don't have anywhere to stay.
Fun fact: slaves slept in one big barn-looking thing, and they were just all thrown in there. Didn't matter who it was.
Yeah. So basically, those are some of our questions that we read you guys. So.
There's a few more, and we'll just be going around asking some of our teachers this year, some of the classmates that we go to school with.
And we'll be asking some people in the office. So.
Okay. I'm going to stand here and just computer access.
Alrighty.
Okay. Do you know when slavery stopped and why it stopped?
The Emancipation Proclamation by Abraham Lincoln, I believe in 18-something, 40-something.
Wow. Round of applause for a good teacher.
How do you think slavery built an economy?
Slavery built an economy on the backs of free labor. That's how. I'm being interviewed.
Okay. Slavery's had no control. How would you feel if your whole life you had no control?
It would be terrible. The stories that I've heard have been atrocious.
At what age did children start working at the plantation?
Oh, I would say they probably had jobs by age 4 or 5.
It said 7, so you were close.
I bet they had jobs at their house, though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Probably.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
How many or about how many black men and women were there in the 17th century?
Oh, In here?
Yeah.
In the U.S.?
Yeah.
How many? I would say, can I say like several 100,000, or do we need to be more
It's
specific?
bigger than that.
Bigger than that. 3 million.
12 million.
12? Wow. Okay.
Okay, one more question.
Okay.
In what way can knowing about slavery help you?
Hold on. Okay, say
In
again.
what way knowing about slavery can it help you?
It can make you a much more empathetic person.
Round of applause.
Are those all your questions?
Yes. Thank you, Miss Mollie.
You're welcome.
Okay, go.
Okay. So, how do you think slavery is important to people today?
It's important to people's heritage and their background and where they came from. A lot of people I know, well, not I know personally, but a lot of people out there have slavery in their background, and their families were slaves way back in the day when they had slavery. So I think it's still important. It's a part of your history. It's a part of where you came from.
How do you think slavery was important?
Slavery was everything back in the days when it was out and when it was allowed. I don't know how the word important plays in that. I never liked slavery. I never liked the idea of slavery. I don't think we should have slaves, or they should have had slaves back then. I'm totally against it. So I don't know what important would be, because I don't find importance in slavery at all.
How do you think slavery affected you?
Me personally, not at all. Because I didn't have any families that I know of, family members that I know of that were slaves. So I'm just all totally against it. So that's how it's important to me, is that I hate slaves. I hate, the whole idea of slavery and slave owners. And I hate that idea.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering our questions.
You're welcome.
Based on slavery for our world history project. So,
Hope I know the answer. It's been a while.
when did slavery stop and why so?
And why so? Abraham Lincoln, I believe, is the person who abolished slavery.
Yeah.
Don't know the date. It's been a little bit since my last history class. This is a test to see how much I know. I'm sweating. Oh,
How is slavery important to people today?
it's very important to people today. There's been so many things that led up to where we are today with Martin Luther King and getting equal rights, but slavery so that everybody is free and not a piece of property.
Yeah. Slaves had no control. How would you feel if you had no control?
It'd be terrible, wouldn't it? It'd be terrible.
At what age did children start working at plantations?
I don't know the exact age. I believe it's just they were always with their parents, and as soon as they could, they did.
Yeah, so it was from 6 to 7, usually normally. I mean, I'm sure they had jobs, but
Well, and I like I said, it's been a while. I keep forgetting about that. So I guess in my mind, if I recall correctly, they carried them on their front or their backs, and similarly with immigration, my dad used to sleep on my grandmother's back because my grandmother is an immigrant coming in from Mexico, and my dad used to sleep on her back while she picked cotton. So I would imagine that it's similar.
how did slavery help build an economy?
How did slavery help build a new economy? Assuming, are you talking about, give me a reference point, are you talking about when the New World
Yeah,
owning slaves helped build the economy
Yeah.
because they were doing all the work?
yeah, I guess. I mean, it's not good, but and then the last question is, were you against or for slavery?
Against slavery. Equal equal rights. Every human being deserves to be unowned, a free person.
Great. Thank you very much.
So basically, how many black men and women were in the 17th century? Or about how many do you think?
How many were there
Yeah, in the United States.
in the United States? Oh my gosh. I'm gonna guess like 500,000.
12 million.
12 million?
Yes.
Wow.
Like a lot of people. How did slavery affect people? How do you think slavery? How would you think about slavery if? How did slavery change the way you think about African American people?
I think it gave me a lot of empathy, certainly for different cultures, different races, and the disparities against people based on their color. So it just started to allow me to see that, and being a minority, of course, I could relate to being discriminated against. So it's more of sympathy than empathy, but I would never pretend to know what they went through.
How is slavery important to people today?
I think it's important to recognize that there was a lot of suffering, and that suffering amongst different races, not just in slavery, but different kinds, and not just here in the United States.
How did slaves build an economy?
That would be a question for Mr. Romero. Well, they helped with as part of their farming. That was how they were slaves and required to pick from the farming or cotton, for instance. And so that was part of growing the economy for the United States, but I'm sure there was a whole lot of other things that I have no idea about.
When did slavery stop and why?
Oh my gosh. Let's see here. Whenever Abraham Lincoln was president is when it stopped. Of course, I do not know what year, but he wanted to abolish slavery, so that's where it began.
Okay. And lastly, do you think slavery was right or wrong?
Absolutely wrong.
Thank you. So basically we have some questions about slavery we're going to ask you.
Okay.
This first one is, how is slavery important to people today?
How is what?
Slavery important to people today?
Well, it still makes a lot of money. And so, are you asking like that? Like, how do people use it today?
Well, it's, yeah.
Different ways.
Different ways. So it's important to people because it still makes money. And money is a big deal, and so they use it as a business. They use it to profit themselves. So it's still taking advantage of someone else. Does that answer your question? Okay.
When did slavery stop and why did it stop?
Well, slavery in the United States officially stopped, in 1860 something, in the 1860s. But I would say that it actually hasn't stopped. And it's just a different type of slavery that we see today.
How did slavery help build the economy?
Well, they got to have people who would work, for free. They didn't have to worry about hiring people. They had their own manpower, and they were able to cut costs of not having to hire people to do the job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.